Hello writers, come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood. I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Write with Mykela. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today is story time. Today I'm reading chapter 7 of the City of the Ancients, and I hope to read your chapter 7 very soon for our chapter exchange. If you are writing with me and you wish to exchange chapters, then I need written permission to read your chapter on the channel, along with your name or your pen name and your age. I also need permission from your parent or legal guardian if you're under 18 years of age. If you're under 18 years old and have guardian permission, then I will need a pen name to read your material. Writers may send their chapters in PDF or Word document format to writewithmykela@gmail.com. That's WRITEWITHMYKELA@gmail.com. I'm not making any promises to read every chapter sent to me on the channel, but I intend to read all the chapters you send. When I get chapters to read on the channel, I will create a second video on Fridays. All chapters read on Fridays, whether they are mine or another writer's work, are copyright protected material, and no one may use any part in writing their own stories. Remember, this story is at least PG-13, meaning if you are under 13 years of age, you need parental guidance. Parents, I state more details about this in Season 1, Episode 4, where I read Chapter 1, An Unfortunate Picnic. This story is in its rough draft stage and needs many more passes of edits, but we will read it together. I call this story City of the Ancients, and today we are reading Chapter 7, The Cave. Let's start reading. At mid-afternoon, Kilty exclaimed, "I see it! I see it!" "Okay, Kilty, calm down," said Kirian. "I think we should stop right here for lunch," teased Kirsha. "No!" hollered Kilty. "No, Dad! Kirian, don't stop! I want to go to the cave!" Kirian knew Kirsha was teasing, and it was good to see her smile. So he played along. He lifted Kilty down. "Yes, a break would be nice." Kirian sat down in the grass. Kirsha pulled her embroidery out of her apron pocket and sat down. She started stitching. "No, please," whined Kilty. "It's just right there. I promise I saw it." Kirian had a hard time not to laugh, so he bit his tongue and stretched out on the ground. His arms covered his face. Kilty, get out your lessons," instructed Kirsha. "It's time for you to read. You haven't read for a week now. Also, it's been several days since you've done any math." "But," started Kilty. Kirsha looked at her and raised her eyebrows. "Yes?" questioned Kirsha. "Do you intend on arguing with me?" "No," replied Kilty sulkily. She started going through the cart to get her lesson book. She kept raising up on her tiptoes and looking to where she thought the cave to be. Kirian leaned up on his elbows. "Kirsha, how long are you going to torture the poor child?" he asked. "Oh, I don't know," replied Kirsha, smiling. "Perhaps a minute more." Kilty looked at Kirsha. Her eyes were pleading with Kirsha. "Okay, we can go," stated Kirsha, "but no running." Kilty dropped everything back in the cart. "Okay, ma'am." She walked and hopped as fast as she could without running and without causing any more pain to her injured leg. Kirian got up and pulled Kirsha up. "You nearly made her heart explode," stated Kirian. "Ah, but patience is a virtuous characteristic," stated Kirsha. "Is it not?" She stuffed her embroidery back in her apron pocket. "Yes, it is. But, my lady, I do not think you instilled a drop of it in her," replied Kirian. He reached down and grabbed the handle to the little cart. "Then perhaps next time, I shall make her sit longer," stated Kirsha. Kirian reached for Kirsha's hand. "My dear, it's times like this when I realize my love for you. I could not. I could have never kept up such a facade. He smiled at Kirsche. Kirsche tried pulling her hand away. I'm not going to hurt you, stated Kirian somewhat impatiently. Why won't you believe me? Did your father hurt your mother? Kirsche wiggled her hand out of Kirian's grip. I don't want anyone to touch me. Can't you understand that? Kirsche hastened to catch up to Kilty. Kirian matched her pace. So, because one person hurt you, you don't want any happiness for the rest of your life? Who says that I'm not happy? Returned Kirsche, as she stopped in her tracks and faced Kirian. Kirian took his hand and wiped her tears. He held his hand out to her. This says that you aren't happy. You're letting one person, one idiot, ruin the rest of your life, stated Kirian emphatically. You cannot blame yourself for what happened. I don't care how many times it happened. That man hurt you. You did not hurt yourself. But now you're running from your pain as if you wish to remain in pain the rest of your life. You have to face this. Let me help you get through this. He reached for a hand again. Her heart raced, but she let him take her hand and lead her. After a few steps, Kirsche said, Do you see Kilty? Kirian scanned the terrain. Kirsche pulled away and started running. She yelled, Kilty! Don't go in the cave by yourself! Kilty, wait for us! Kirian ran after Kirsche, pulling the cart behind him. After a few minutes, they came to an area where the grass wasn't as tall. In the center of the area was a boulder that was waist high, and it was wide as it was high. They did not see Kilty. Kilty! Called Kirsche. Kilty! Called Kirian. Oh, Kirian, where would she go? Asked Kirsche. I don't know, replied Kirian. I'll climb on the boulder to get a better view. Kirian climbed up. He scanned the terrain, starting with the area to the south. He slowly turned towards the east. He looked down. Kirsche, come on. The entrance is over there. Kirian hopped down and walked around the boulder. Kirsche followed close behind. The cave entrance had hard rock slabs going down, almost like stairs. But the distance down between slabs or stairs was different with each step. A few times after Kirian hopped down to the next stair, he turned around and lifted Kirsche down. They called, Kilty! Kilty! Where are you? Are you in here? After a few minutes, Kilty answered, I'm down here. Kilty was in a small chamber. Water trickled through it. Many tunnels led out of it. Kilty, why did you come down here without us? Scolded Kirsche. You said no running, defended Kilty. I didn't run. I didn't know that you didn't want me to come down here. I thought that was why we came here, to explore the cave. Leave it to children to stick with the literal when it's to their advantage, stated Kirsche. I'll get our things, said Kirian. He started out. Then he turned back. Both of you stay here. Don't wander around here until I come back with a lantern. He headed out. What are we looking for? Asked Kilty. The orb keys are for information about them, replied Kirsche. The orb keys will unlock the underground city for us. Then we can heal your leg. My leg doesn't hurt so much, stated Kilty. It just looks ugly. The book said that some days the wound would not hurt at all, but other days the wound would hurt severely. Severely enough to make a grown man cry, replied Kirsche. I'm sorry the snake or ravenous vapor has hurt your leg, but I'm glad to go on this little adventure. I don't want to die with my only accomplishment in my life being that I wash dishes and clothes. I like this adventure too, replied Kilty. Kirsche smiled. Perhaps we will get you the cure before your leg hurts you too badly. Kirian came back down with their bag of things and a few lanterns. He had to leave the cart above ground. Did you realize how much cooler it is down here? Kirian asked. I didn't, until I went back out in the heat. I guess it is cooler, agreed Kirsche. Now, where do we go? Asked Kirian. We explore this cave until we find information or the orb keys, stated Kirsche. I know that. But which way? Asked Kirian. We have to limit our stay down here. We don't want to be deep in these tunnels and out of food. So, which one do we take first? Kirsche looked around. The book didn't say. At least, I don't remember it saying. But perhaps there are marks in the stone someplace. So we should check this chamber thoroughly. Kirian handed Kirsche a lantern. Kilty, you stay put, instructed Kirian. You sit here with our things and you don't move. Kirsche, Kirian stopped. He remembered a couple of nights ago and how spooked she had been over a piece of seaweed. Kirian looked her over. He knew that she was waiting patiently. Kirsche, remember that you're in a dress. And remember that I will help you if you need it. Kirian, you are pathetic, stated Kirsche. I'm not the one who came down here by myself. And you act as if you're not going to be able to see me from across the chamber. I'm just concerned, replied Kirian. I want you to use caution. Fine, I'll use caution, stated Kirsche. And if I run into any bears, I'll let you know. Kirian sighed. Where are you searching first? Over there, said Kirsche, pointing. Okay, we'll start over there, answered Kirian. I'm not a baby, Kirsche said with a raised voice and one hand on her hip. I can handle this. Kirsche, if we start together, then you can go around one way and I'll go the other way. When we meet back up, we'll be through searching, reasoned Kirian. Oh, replied Kirsche, somewhat embarrassed. I'm sorry. That's okay. Come on, let's start, replied Kirian. They started searching the walls and the floors, looking for a crack that seemed out of place or for some carvings in the stone. Kirsche and Kirian had made their way most of the way around the chamber. Soon they would meet back up. Their fingers felt sore from trying to pry things open. Kilty had watched them for a while, but she became bored. She took off her shoes, and then she noticed an unusual crack. She pushed her fingers in and pulled. Lo and behold, it moved, but it was too heavy for her to lift out of the hole. When she dropped it down, and though she did not drop it far, the muffled thump echoed through the chamber. Kirian and Kirsche immediately turned to look, and Kilty was trying again. Kirian and Kirsche hurried over. After Kilty raised it some, Kirian and Kirsche were better able to get their fingers in. They lifted the stone slab out of the hole. Beneath the slab was what they were looking for, a piece of parchment with a drawing on it. Kirian and Kirsche carefully set the slab back in place. Kirian, tell me if I'm wrong, said Kirsche. Paper doesn't stay intact for 7 generations, does it? Being down here so long as this chamber doesn't flood would be better than being buried in the dirt. But no, I don't think it would last 7 generations, replied Kirian. Then as an afterthought, he asked, how many years did you use in your calculation of a generation? At first I thought 10, but then I thought 20. I wasn't sure which, so I went with 15 years, she replied. So 105 years, thought Kirian aloud. Or more precisely, 1,365 moon cycles, stated Kirsche. Kirian raised his eyebrows. 13 moons in 1 year, she explained. Anyway, interrupted Kirian, the paper should have disintegrated, even if you said 10 years in a generation. Maybe it's held together by magic, suggested Kilty. Kirian and Kirsche both looked at Kilty, unimpressed. Kilty, magic was banned from this land over 1,200 years ago, said Kirian. This paper is 105 years old. Magic was long gone before someone put this paper here. But the book, protested Kilty. "The book said the siblings could use magic easily. Right, Kirsha?" "Yes, sweetie," answered Kirsha. "It said the 3 siblings had magic since their birth. The book said the siblings did not have to study magic as much as others because it was so natural to them." "Sounds to me like we should have started looking for the siblings," stated Kirian. "Very funny," said Kirsha. "We know that the siblings do not exist. I mean that for every generation, the same exact siblings to be born for 7 whole generations. I told you, the book described the siblings down to hair and eye color. Anyway, who cares how or what preserved the map? It was just a thought in passing. Let's just see if we can make it out." They looked it over and then rested for the night. In the morning, Kirian, Kirsha, and Kilty started following the map to a larger chamber. The chamber was hard to find because stone doors closed off some of the passages. A couple of times they had to backtrack. But then they gave Kilty a stick and told her to hit the wall as she walked down the passage. If the map showed the passage on their left, Kilty would tap the left wall. If it was supposed to be on their right, Kilty would tap the right wall. Kilty thought it to be a wonderful game. Since they were listening to the taps, no one talked. Kirsha was glad of that. Kirian had become much more aggressive towards her lately. Kirsha became aware that Kirian watched her. At least his hands are busy carrying our things, she thought. So long as we are out here with Kilty, I should be okay. But I definitely don't want to go back home with him. Perhaps I can help Kilty, and then I can go back to my village. Not that there's anything better in my village. She continued thinking. She almost missed the difference sound as Kilty tapped. Kirsha jerked back to her present surroundings. "There," she said. "Kilty, tap the wall again." The passage led off the right wall. Finally, they came to the larger chamber. In the center of the chamber, the floor looked like someone had carved it, or more precisely, had chiseled it. At 3 places in the chiseled stone, there were divots, each containing an oval stone. Kirsha picked them up. "These look like the description of the orb keys," she said. "Only they seem small. I expected something bigger." "I expected them to be harder to find," stated Kirian. "Well, that too," agreed Kirsha. "What's this picture of here on the floor?" Kirian studied it. And Kirsha knew he would be able to concentrate better if she left him alone. So she walked around the chamber to see if she should happen upon anything else. Kirian walked around the carving. Kilty sat down. She got out some parchment and some of the red powder. She took a small handmade horsehair paintbrush, dipped it into her small bowl of water, and then in the red powder. She started painting the chiseled picture on the parchment. Kirsha found some miniature stone figures. To her, they looked like elaborate houses. There were 4 houses and a long column. Kirsha put the 3 stones back in the divots and placed a house on each. 3 houses had sunken-in bottoms, which fit perfectly over the stones. The bottom of the 4th house rounded downward. It fit perfectly in the 4th divot. "This looks like a weird game," stated Kirsha. "Close your eyes. I'll move the stones, and you guess where each stone is." "Move, Kirsha," stated Kirian. "You are no fun," retorted Kirsha. Kirian didn't respond. He just walked around again. Kirsha took the column. She planted herself in the middle of the picture. "Okay, then all the picture is mine, and you are trying to steal my treasure, which are the oval stones. If I touch you with my stone stick, then you are my prisoner. If you get all my treasure, then you can stand in the middle." "Kirsha, you're in the way," stated Kirian. Yeah, agreed Kilty. But your games do sound fun. Move, commanded Kirian. No, insisted Kirsha as she stomped her foot. She raised the stick and then pounded it into the ground. The stick slid down into the stone. Kirsha released it and backed up. Kirian walked around one more time. This is a map, he stated. He walked to the stone column and pulled it out. He looked closely at the floor. Somehow the hole looked like the floor. Kirian ran his hand over the picture. He found 3 more holes. Excuse me. My breathing gets off when I read too much. The holes were in a row. They formed a crossbar for the letter T. The hole Kirsha had found was just below the middle hole. My guess is this is the city of the ancients, or at least the entrance to the city, stated Kirian. He pointed the stone sticks. See, those are the mountains. And the houses? Asked Kirsha. Those are the castles, replied Kirian. Kilty, finish your painting, but don't draw in the castles. For the holes, just use more paint. We will know what the darker red is for, but everyone else will assume it was an impurity with your powder. Kirsha, get the stones and put the castles back where you found them. We'll bring the stone stick with us also. Kirsha and Kilty did as Kirian had asked them to do. When Kirsha was a good distance away from Kilty, Kirian approached her. Kirsha turned around and stopped suddenly. Kirian gently took her hand and kissed it. Marry me, he stated. No, I told you no, replied Kirsha. Tell me why you have said no, stated Kirian, and being scared is not an acceptable excuse. Neither can you say that you cannot trust me. I've been with you for 3 years. I've had plenty of opportunities to hurt you or take advantage of you, but I haven't. I have proven myself trustworthy. Kirian, I just don't want to get married, replied Kirsha earnestly. And why not? Pressed Kirian. Kirian, I love you, Kirsha. Let us spend the rest of our lives together. Don't you care for me? Kirian, I don't want to get married. I don't need you or anyone else to take care of me. I can do that myself. Kirsha was becoming angry at his insistence. And don't tell me that I can't, she said with a slightly raised voice. I cook. I clean. I sell my embroidery. What money have you added to our pool? None. I don't want our money depleted, but that doesn't concern you. All that concerns you is deceiving me so you can torture me like my adopted dad did to my mom. She should have learned not to trust him. Well, I learned. I'm not trusting anyone. Kirian took in a deep breath. He thought to himself, there was that word torture again. He said, I would never torture you. I'm sorry that you can't accept my love for you because I've done nothing to receive such scorn. Kirian walked away and out of the chamber. Kirsha cried in her hands. She did not see him leave. She just relived the scenes where her adopted mom screamed out in pain for long periods of time before passing out. Kilty was engrossed in her painting, so she didn't notice Kirian leaving either. No, Kirian, yelled Orissa as Arik entered the room. Don't go! Don't leave, Kirsha! She cried and pulled her orb to her chest. She whispered, Don't give up! Please don't give up! Arik gently gripped her shoulders and turned her towards himself. He hugged her tightly. I hate seeing you worried like this, he said. I'm sure Kirian isn't leaving, Kirsha. Tell me what happened. Orissa sniffled. He did leave. Kirsha just pushed too hard. I think we didn't watch Kirsha enough. There is more pain in her than just from Dante beating her and her adopting parents not wanting her. She is scared of marriage, too. She was cruel in her words to Kirian. I can't blame him for leaving, but our hope lies in them staying together. What did Kirsha say to Kirian? Asked Arik patiently and calmly. She accused him of deceiving her so he could torture her. although he can't even earn money." "But Kirian does earn money," replied Arik. "Apparently Kirsha doesn't know." "How can she not know? She asks him to buy eggs or milk or whatever she needs, and he doesn't take money from the fund. She's smart enough to know that he has to have some source of money." Arisha looked up in her husband's eyes. He wiped away her tears. "Dear, I don't think Kirian is giving up. He's just going to show her his money." "But he left Kirsha and Kilty. They're still in the cave. I was so happy when they found the map room. And Kirsha was trying to play with Kirian, but then Kirian asked her to marry him, and they argued, and he left. Kirsha and Kilty are far from the village. They can't go back on their own. Kilty is hurt. There is no wise seer with them. Kirian can't leave them." Arik took in a deep breath. He pulled out his orb and looked into it. He saw Kilty painting away. He saw Kirsha crying into her hands. But Kirian was not close to them. Kirian was walking at a brisk pace, and he had already traveled through many passages away from Kirsha and Kilty. "They will be okay, dear. Watching won't help them. If we had watched Kirsha more before, we still couldn't stop anything. Kirsha will take care of Kilty. She has her magic." Arisha wanted to protest. She wanted to say that Kirsha didn't know any spells, so she could not control her magic, and that what magic she did use, she vehemently denied. But she let her husband hug her and comfort her. Kirsha looked up after a while. Kirian, where are you?" She ran to the exit and down the passage. She called him again. "Kirian!" Kirsha went back to Kilty, who was frightened. "I thought you left me," Kilty cried. "I didn't, but it seems that Kirian has left us." "Why?" "Because I told him that I didn't need him," stated Kirsha. Then through clenched teeth she added, "He thinks that we will fail, but we will show him." Kirsha started gathering their things. "Did you finish the painting?" "Yes, ma'am," she said. "The paint isn't dry yet." "That's okay," replied Kirsha. "We will lay it on top of the bag. It can dry as we walk." Kirsha pulled the bag behind her. She and Kilty walked through the tunnels quietly. Kirian walked along and thought. He had no trouble remembering the way out. What Kirsha said about the money wasn't true. But what Kirsha didn't know was that he had money hidden. And while he hadn't taken up his father's trade, he had done little jobs for some of the villagers to earn money. Kirsha didn't know of those either, simply because she never cared to ask him where he went or what he did, so long as he brought back eggs or milk or whatever else she asked for. Kirian wasn't concerned with depleting their funds because he never used their funds. Kirsha was the one who used the funds. Granted, she bought things for him and Kilty, but Kirian also knew that Kirsha was conservative. If Kirsha took out 6 maces, she would sell her embroidery for at least 10 maces, so she could replenish the fund. For Kirsha, depletion meant that the fund was not increasing rapidly enough. Kirian sighed. He thought, if she wants me to take up my father's trade and set up shop, then that's what I'll do. I don't know what to do about the rest. She may never trust me in that area. He walked on. He did not stop when night came for those outside the cave. He just kept going. He wanted to set things up before Kirsha could arrive at their home. He didn't worry about Kirsha making it home. He felt that so long as she had to take care of Kilty, she would make it back safely. Okay, writers, that is the end of chapter 7. We have seen that Kirsha has an enormous amount of fear, but she is also very stubborn. Next Friday, we will read chapter 8, The Adventure Begins. I hope you join me to see if Kirian, Kirsha, and Kilty make it back to their village and what happens to them on the way there. Also, by now, you realize that Kirian, Kirsha, and Kilty needed to go on this journey. And Kilty's injury was a catalyst, an unfortunate one, but still, they needed to go on this journey or adventure and not just live out their lives in the village. This story is in its rough draft form and needs many more edits, but you are getting to see or hear the first or second pass through a story. Sometimes when I go back and read a story, I ask myself, what happened with such and such scene? I know that scene is there. Where is it? So the scene happened in my mind and it didn't make it to the paper, so I have to insert it. Sometimes I have to fill out scenes. We've discussed on Tuesdays observations, the senses, perspectives, and emotions. When we edit, we need to look for all of those things as we read through the actions in our story. Sometimes I get caught up in, when I have an action scene, I get caught up and I'm trying to write everything so fast. But then when I go back and read it, then I can go fill it out. So, when we're reading through the action, we can add those things. Leave a comment on how you are coming along with your story from our shared plot. Are you writing chapter 7 yet? Are you still on chapter 1? Maybe you haven't broken your story into chapters yet. And chapter 1 is 100 pages. Sometimes I do that. I just write. And then I go back and I break the chapters down and see where the chapters should go. So leave that in the comments as well. I tried to make chapter 1 fairly short, just a quick introduction type of thing. But again, that is definitely a second pass. That is not the first pass of editing. Tune in Tuesday for another writing exercise with emotions, and then next Friday for chapter 8. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and the bell notification so you can continue on this journey with me. You can continue writing with me. We can write together. Also, soon you can visit my website, www.bymykela.com, to read biographies or bios about my characters in my Mykela series. I have professionals helping me with the website, and I know that I need to add bios for the characters in City of the Ancients. So far, I've written 3 of these. The Kirian, Kirsha, and Kilty. So those 3 will be up when the website is up. But I still need Arik and Arisha and Valens that you've heard name, and Dante and Volkov. There's a lot more characters in the story, so I need to write bios for them. Still, I have a lot of bios. Mykela, I think I had like 70-something bios for that story for you to read on the website once it's up. If you're doing the chapter exchange with me, then send your PDF or Word document to writewithmykela@gmail.com. But I don't do Google Docs, so please don't send those. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, then please share it with them. I hope to read your chapters soon. See you on Tuesday. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.